You say, Craig James, and you know when you say this that some people are going to roll their eyes, that you felt called by God to get into this Senate race.
That's a personal thing, Jack, and I don't expect people, if they don't have a faith, to understand that. I believe strongly that I was called to do this. It doesn't mean I'm going to win, but I was called to take this step, and there's so many things in my life that lined up with things occurring and people stepping into my life to confirm that conviction. And it collided at the same time with me being fed up with what's happening in Washington. And I said, I'm going to do it. I'm going to jump and give up the comfort that I had in this life.
Did you have any doubt as to what the call was in terms of its specificity? Was it a call just to get involved? Was it a call to speak out? How did it specifically lead to the Senate race?
Well, yeah, it goes back now over 2 years when Kay Bailey was considering resigning as she ran for the governor. Had she done that, I had loosely assembled a team prepared to make a decision whether or not to step in at that time for the open seat. So it had been on my heart and on my mind, and I know that I was kind of feeling the strong passion towards reading more and following more and being more involved in the direction of our country. My kids are gone, we're empty nesters, and so my business life, my ranching and my real estate work was feeling the repercussions of uncertainty, of regulations, and taking away my buyers. And so I was like, hey, there are too many things lining up here for me not to move forward and get involved.
Now, we've had in recent days and weeks, Craig, on the show, all of the other Republican Senate candidates, Glenn Addison, Tom Leppert, David Dewhurst, Ted Cruz. What do you offer? What do you bring to the table that they don't?
You know what I think, Jack? Glenn Addison and I bring citizenship to this deal. We're not politicians. We haven't been in government and served in a singular vehicle that's taken them to the path of their lives. And so I believe right now for me and what I've done, my life's resume and the experiences that I've had, and when I share with people that I grew up in an apartment boy and saw the eviction notice on the front door in third grade, had to move time and again, ate the mayonnaise-only sandwiches, but I saw an America that gave me a chance to live the American dream, to make something with my life. And I wanted to preserve that and to pass it on. And the number of businesses that I've started have allowed me to understand the economy and the importance of freedom and free markets and how free markets work. I know how we create and provide jobs in Texas and in this country. And right now we're heading towards socialism, and I'm totally against that.
But when I hear you say that, I hear all of these other candidates say the same thing. They are all promising me that same fight. So why is your promise more credible than theirs?
The last 3 years, if you haven't lived in this economy, you haven't been hit in the mouth with bare knuckles to understand it and feel it first person. I have signed the front of checks. I've seen my business shrink and people worried about me keeping them employed. So that's one thing that's for certain. The other thing is the vast array of things and experiences that I've had on, I call Real Street, of creating jobs, of living and being a dad, not just a father, but a dad with my 4 kids. So I've been at the dinner table at 6 o'clock at night and watched them and their friends come through there, and we've talked about the failures of the education system. I've seen the ups and downs of people who are trying to make ends meet. And so my Real Street life resume is, I think, clearly, distinctly different than those guys.
Talking with Republican Senate candidate Craig James on 550 KTSA at 10:15. So people are digging into your sports career, and they're pulling out, for example, the time that you were at SMU, part of the Pony Express. What can you tell us about any knowledge of or involvement that you had with those now infamous infractions at SMU?
It's hard for people to put themselves back into the mindset of what that era was. It was so long ago, and it seems so brazen. It was the way of life back then, and I'm talking about all schools and the recruiting and the things that went on. I've said in my book, and I've said many times that I did take insignificant amounts of money when I was at SMU, but it was wrong. I was 18, 19 years old. I'd come from an apartment background. Somebody shakes your hand with a $20 bill. It's at 19. Who wouldn't want a redo and a makeover? And so it was just part of the era. I was not there when the death penalty came down. That was 4 years or 5 years removed from me. So, I understand that people want to talk about that, and it's a sexy headliner, but I had nothing to do with it.
You're also involved, I know, in this whole deal with Mike Leach and the way he left Texas Tech, and your son was playing there. And you've expressed some sensitivity about the fact that you had to be careful what you said while your son was still at Texas Tech. We've heard the story about the concussion and the allegation that he was put in a shed. What is going on in terms of, I guess there's a defamation lawsuit, is that right?
Yeah, and I guess the thing that people need to understand is that it's not alleged. It happened. I mean, he ordered him put into dark solitary confinement, locked away twice, with a guard out front told that if he came out that he was cut from the team immediately. Took everything out of the shed. So because I've been quiet for 2 years and he's written a couple of books and he's been out on the speaking tour just bashing us, he's created these lies and distractions to take away from what he did to a human being. We defended our son against a bully, and I'll do it another 1,000 times over for all of my 4 kids or anyone that I know. And anyone who wouldn't support their kid, I don't care for their vote. And I said that, and I mean that genuinely. I don't run with those folks. I'm going to defend my children as long as I'm here on this earth.
I like what you're saying, but the other side of that is when I Google you, all I come up with are articles about that case. In essence, it seems to be eclipsing even your run for Senate at this point. Isn't that a problem?
Well, no, see, here's what I think people, and at least on the streets, what I'm seeing whenever I visit and talk to major groups and people that are there, is they pivot from that. What does that mean for Craig James? Okay, I like his life's resume and his experiences as a business person, as a dad, and he's been involved in his community. It means that I've got a backbone and I'm not going to stand by and see a wrong occur and not speak up against it. And we know right now that whoever goes to Washington has to have a proven backbone, that they'll go there and do the right thing and not fear the backlash. And so, if you really think through it, that's at least the way that I believe people should and have responded to the message.
Now, I've seen some polls that show you, pretty far back in this field. What is your sense of the time left? Of course, we don't know how much time you have left because we don't know exactly when this primary will be, but what is your sense? Do you have enough time left on the clock, the game clock, to make this happen?
We might be running in 2013 at this pace. Yes, we do. You and I both know, and all those who follow politics, that 2 or 3 months in politics can be an eternity. Weeks and days can be an eternity. And I don't pay attention to the polls right now. We've been doing this for a little over 4 weeks. And I can assure you, I'm not a guy, and I didn't evaluate these opportunities and this chance of winning with emotions. I looked at it very, very systematically. And when I go places and I speak, and the number of people who are now overwhelming us for us to come and to speak to their groups is encouraging. The applauses that I get, people get it when they hear me and they see me in person. And so the polls I know have been taken, but it's a snapshot. I mean, we haven't been in this race very long. So let's be patient. I've got my head down. I'm disciplined. The same passion that got me to the NFL, the same passion that made me successful as a business person, I'm using that approach in this race, in this campaign. So head down, and we'll see what happens here in the next month or two.
I guess you should tell people you're pretty much where Santorum was not so long ago, right?
And I endorsed Rick Santorum last week, and I did that because a year and a half ago I went to Washington and I had dinner with Rick, and at dinner he was thinking about the presidency, I was thinking about running for the U.S. Senate, and Rick and I talked at length about our faith, about our family, and the Constitution, and it's the same message that he and I both have continued to beat the streets with. And I think Rick Santorum is the true conservative who's capable of going out and defeating President Obama. And that is what we must have. We've got to end this run that's in Washington.
Do you feel confident that you could run with any of these leading Republicans at the top of the ticket?
I have all the confidence in the world in what I believe and what I know. See, I possess something that they don't have, these other candidates and those who are in Washington right now. I've got a real street perspective. I have an understanding of what's happening in this economy right now. I don't need a town hall meeting for someone to walk into me and say, Craig, here's what's going on in our sector. I get it, because I go down to my local little convenience store where you can make your own sandwich and everybody sits around the meat counter in my little town of 5,000 people. And we talk about whether it's the cattle business, the hay business, if you're a plumber, electrician, you're a banker, you're a lawyer. I'm dialed in with these people.
So let me ask you about a couple of specific things before we let you go. And it's probably an underhand softball, but Keystone Pipeline, I would imagine you're for it. What do we do to get that back on track?
We've got to press up President Obama for him to understand that we need that oil first and foremost. And there's so many things that come with that building and the construction of that pipeline. I was just watching this morning the presser that's out there. They're sending that. China right now is on a fast track to get it over to them, and they're going to take it from us. So that takes away from another opportunity for us to have more oil coming in from a friendly neighbor, so that we have energy security. We can't become energy independent. We're going to have to import oil. We know that. But it's mind-boggling that we're taking away an opportunity for energy security as well as the number of jobs that it'll bring to our country.
Where do you stand on the drawdown, the president's scheduled drawdown of troops from Afghanistan?
I think, right now, everyone else around this world is building up their troops. You look at China and you look at these other countries and what they're doing, and we are at the same time, we're reducing the strength and the financial support for our military. I believe that we have got to continue to have an iron fist, that the bad guys respect one thing and one thing only, and that is power. We must maintain military power or we're in trouble. I do believe that these special ops that we've seen be successful is a part of our future strategy. But to go in my mind, and to send in 50,000 troops and the number of boots on the ground, it's expensive. It's proved to be costly in lives, and many times not as successful. So we need to rethink the strategy, but we must always preserve any piece of dirt in this world where we can launch to defend our interests.
What about Iran and their press for nuclear weapons? Is the president doing all he can do on the diplomatic front, and do you trust that the military option really is on the table?
I just watched the press conference with Senator Lindsey Graham, and he's got a resolution going in the Senate today that he's hoping that he can get passed that supports the president's stand that we must not allow Iran to have a nuclear capability. And we know that they're building it. They're within months of striking distance of having that done. Israel's not going to sit around and let them finish that off. The last thing that we can do is to allow Iran to have any kind of nuclear warhead over there, because if they do, the rest of the Middle East will follow suit. And then what will this world look like?
Well, when you say Israel's not going to let it happen, I think a lot of Americans are content to let Israel handle it. Should the United States fold its arms and let Israel take care of it?
Again, think about what that means to us. Think about the amount of oil that we depend on from the Middle East. You're talking about a disruption of that. That's why we need to have the Keystone Pipeline, for example, another strong reason for that. If we have an absolute all-out nuclear war over in the Middle East, this world will never be the same that you and I know it.
All right, Craig James, candidate for the United States Senate, Republican Party. What is your website?
TexansForCraigJames.com.
All right, to find out more. Hope we can get you back again. Thank you for the time today.
You got it, Jack. I enjoyed the visit, and thanks for having me.
We'll talk to you again. It's 10:25. We're back to your phone calls at 599-5555 after headlines on 550 KTSA.